Freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Yeah, just surrender, it won't hurt. You know, come on, man, just lay back and let us take care of y'all. Pinky swear. Pinky swear. You know, whoa, man, we so know better. And I'm so glad that the next Generation Next, you guys know better. You know better. Now we're going to, how are we going to survive this thing? You know, a lot of people are expatriating. You'll see a lot of stories we have up on Freedom's Phoenix that are about, hey, man, Chile, Argentina, New Zealand, we're checking it all out. We're trying to find a place. Is there a place? Can we go hide in the mountain canyon somewhere here in America? Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be kind of consolidating everything, getting small, getting tight, getting mobile. We'll still have Freedom's Phoenix, and we'll still do the radio show, and we'll start doing more video and such. But, we're going to start getting mobile. Start putting everything into these sea containers that can be shipped anywhere in the world. This is what we're doing because we know better. We've accumulated, seeds. We've accumulated ammunition and guns and food and all this. Why? Just to survive. That's what it's going to come down to. Everybody's so worried about, we need to wear the ring of power. We need to put on the ring. I want the ring. Let me do the ring. I'm a good guy for the ring. Or behind the lever of power. Man, it's the lever. It's the ring. That's the problem. Because the ring exists for what? Protect us from the evils that's going to try and take us over. Oh, war. Well, what's China doing? Today on Freedom's Phoenix, man, they are preparing for land war on their borders all around. They're going, man, it's going to get, you know what? You're not going to come here. So, here we got an arms race going again. They'll be pumping that up. And we had yesterday Kathy Kelly on from Kabul in Afghanistan live on Skype. She was like, look, man, just pulling that Afghanistan thing, what a bunch of crap. She goes, let me tell you what they got here. They're building big, giant compounds there it's all about the oil line. So I'm going, yep, the empire will fall. And that's one thing Dr. Paul's been saying. He's going, look, this will end. Guarantee. It's going to end. It's going to end badly. And it's going to be because we're broke. And then what are they going to do? Well, they're going to come up with a holiday, a bank holiday. And we're going to come into, what? It's going to be the world-o. Skip that Amero thing, go straight to the world-o. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and read Mark Victor's, and he wrote about the same time I did in December of 2002. Within a couple of days of each other, we wrote this. And it's interesting to see. Here's a young man that, was, I met him in the mid-'90s, right after he got out of law school. And who was his law professor, his mentor? Butler Schaefer. That's how we know Butler well, is because he and Mark are really good friends since he was one of his students. So, yeah, man, Butler's got it going on. Let's go ahead and do Mark Victor's here. My Journey to Libertarianville by Mark J. Victor. I've always been a loudmouth. Even as a young boy, my mother would often say, someday that mouth of yours is going to get you in trouble. Today, as a criminal defense attorney, I use that mouth of mine to help get people out of trouble. It wasn't always that way. Like most other loudmouths, I was always interested in politics. However, like most all other Boston area Jews, I was surrounded by longtime liberal Democrats. Although there may have been a time in my youth when I was in the presence of a Republican, such unpleasantness was always kept from me, I had always been informed that Democrats were for the people and Republicans were for big business. If there was more to the analysis, I never heard it. Being most comfortable in the midst of any controversy, I think my youthful pronouncement that I had decided to be a Republican was more of a reaction against the Democratic Party monopoly than a statement of principle. To their credit, my parents informed me that my Republican leanings were okay, so long as I did not publicize them in front of the elder generation. I think they believed it was just some crazy phase I was going through. Ultimately, they were correct. At some point, I became a Republican because I agreed with what Republicans were saying. In addition to sounding whiny and wimpy, the Democrats always struck me as needing a babysitter to help with living their lives. The Republicans were talking about individual responsibility and low taxes. I really bought into the limited government concept. I started arguing with Democrats about everything, whether they wanted to argue or not, if you know Mark. I began my college career as a political science major at the University of Massachusetts in Boston. The school is not known for its great libertarian bent. I don't know if being a socialist was a requirement to become a professor, but it sure seemed like it to me. I recall the permanent Marxist information table being a popular spot among many of the students. Everyone in my political science classes knew me. Some knew me as the loudmouth Republican idiot. Others just knew me as the loudmouth. I loved it. Somewhere in the midst of my battles with liberals, I began to notice there were some pesky issues where the liberal Democrats' voices made some sense. I couldn't deny their good points on various individual rights issues, such as free speech, sodomy laws, homosexuality, pornography, and separation of church and state. Being tired of shoveling snow and a fan of the summertime, I transferred to Arizona State University as a Justice Studies major. In addition to having a few conservatives around, there was no Marxist table to be found at Arizona State University. Although my Republican views had started to moderate on some individual rights issues, I was still fool enough to extol the virtues of the war on drugs. One day after class, I participated in a heated argument about the drug war. During my long walk to the poor man's parking lot, the economic-based argument against the drug war started to sink into my hard head. I could feel myself having to change my deeply held view about the drug war and adopt a pro-legalization position. Later, I realized those great Republican pronouncements about individual responsibility were not compatible with a war on drugs. When I entered law school at Southwestern University in Los Angeles, I was a confused conservative, not comfortable with either Republicans or the Democrats. In one sense, I was better off because I could argue with both the Republicans and Democrats. Merely rejecting both parties didn't stop me from being a loudmouth. Although I had positions on various issues, I lacked a coherent philosophical base. One day, I met Professor Butler Schaefer. He told us to refer to him either as Butler or God, if we weren't comfortable using his first name. I figured out quickly this guy wasn't a typical law professor. He showed up in class one day wearing a t-shirt with the word anarchy on it. I was intrigued. Butler posed questions about self-ownership and the legitimacy of the Constitution. He insisted that all political questions were really different versions of the same question. Who makes the decision over property, the owner or someone else? He boiled all questions down to a property analysis. I harassed the guy. After endless hours kicking around the questions Butler posed, I started to understand. Butler gave me a book by Murray Rothbard that discussed the monetary system. I also read Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt and Libertarianism in One Lesson by David Berglund while I was pouring through the required law school reading. Butler invited me to two discussion groups entitled the Mencken Forum and the Knock Forum, respectively. I attended both faithfully and became a libertarian junkie. I couldn't get enough of the freedom philosophy. After flirting with the Libertarian Party, I came to the realization that such a party is a contradiction in terms. Although I sympathize with political libertarians, I do not count myself among them. On the other hand, I do not believe there is or can exist a centralized plan for freedom. I have come to believe there are two groups of people, those who coerce others and those who do not. After almost 10 years as a practicing criminal defense attorney, I can say few libertarians have fought the state more regularly. I am a libertarian on the front lines in the war against tyranny. An epic, multi-generational, and honorable struggle. My law firm is strongly pro-freedom. I have hosted regular discussion groups, given speeches, hosted a radio show, and sponsored debates. In 2000, I co-founded the Freedom Summit with my partner and libertarian guerrilla warrior, Ernest Hancock. Although neither the Mencken Forum nor the Knock Forum continue, the Freedom Summit exists to hopefully rescue lost libertarian souls from the intellectual chaos that prevails today. In the end, my mom was right. It was my loud mouth that will most certainly get me into trouble. On the other hand, I wouldn't have it any other way. You can see why Mark and I have teamed up on this stuff. You know, this is a long time battle. We've been doing this a long time. Hopefully it's a lifelong endeavor of yours too. Or you can go support the man. Oh, burning the man. Summit at the summit. Here it comes.